Our objective here today is to create some sort of a water feature for the horses. What I didn't realize was that we're starting with the Grand Canyon here. It's going to be a monumental task. We're going to try to accomplish it with a couple of 1025Rs. No promises, but let's get started. Hey, be sure to press that like button. I hate asking, but the YouTube algorithm loves it. And check to make sure you're still subscribed. We had 5 comments, I believe, over the last episode saying that they had been unsubscribed. We were told there was a little bit of a hole in the ground that we were going to use for the basis of our water feature, but we did not realize it was this big of a hole. But before I show you much more of this, I think it would be good to see an example of what we think is the final goal here. Let's take a look at that. So this is our goal, right?
Yes.
And I need to understand, I mean, to me, when I first look at this, I just see a water puddle.
It is a water puddle.
So help me with some definitions.
Sure.
Over there we have a bank,
Yeah.
right? Is that what they're calling that?
That's an up bank or a down bank, and so horses will either come galloping up and then jump in, or they'll come galloping down and jump out of a bank.
Okay, so the bank is where we have a vertical set of maybe railroad ties or some sort of material that's going to make it vertical. Now, what's this called?
This is a run out technically. So this is where we start our younger horses, our less trained horses.
Okay.
And this is going to give them the confidence to trust this water and then know that they can go in and trust their rider, that there's not alligators in here, there's nothing that's going to eat them, and then we can get them to start jumping in and out.
Okay, so the bank, the vertical bank, is an advanced feature.
Exactly.
And the run out or run out or run in.
Run out or run in.
That's where the horses start. Now,
Yes.
since we're just getting started, we're going to focus mainly on a run out.
Yep.
All the way around maybe for now.
Exactly. So you can see that Rochelle here at Platinum has put logs over here to kind of simulate a bank for these greener horses, and so they can practice without having a true bank.
Okay, and we've got some logs. We're going to be able to do that. That's how we'll get started.
Exactly.
And then maybe after we get going, we can come back another time and we can build an official bank.
We would love that.
Now, how deep is this? I mean, it looks like it could be alligators in 20 foot deep out
Exactly. So we have rules that are set by USEA and FEI that say how deep it can be, and that's so every horse goes into every water knowing that it's not 6 feet deep when they're jumping off a giant bank like they're building over here, and it's at most 8 inches.
Okay.
This one, I think we're going to walk through it, but I think we get maybe 4 inches, and that's after we've had torrential downpours.
Okay. We may walk through it, but I think that we may be more you, but
Right.
now we're in Colorado.
Yes.
I'm not used to seeing water.
We don't usually have a lot of water.
And in this situation, there's a well right here that they're pumping this thing and keeping it full, but you're not going to have that.
No, I'm not. Typically, we have to truck water in, and so a water truck has to come in. We have to account for how many gallons we're putting in. It can get really expensive really fast. We do have a situation up in our barn that the water drains near it or to it, so if we wanted to try and utilize that, we could.
If we do happen to get a rain, then you can at least use that. Now,
Exactly.
And then, so it's going to be very important for us to make sure we have a liner under it and keep it from losing any water underneath. And there is a footing issue, right? If we have a leak in our liner, it can cause some footing issues under it.
Yeah, so us horse people call it a base. I think that you have those in ponds in everyday life too, but any water that touches your base can actually destroy the base. And so what that means is it'll make your base sink in, which then now your pond becomes deeper.
Okay. And the base is under the liner.
The base is under the liner.
Now, we're not going to build anything this big, are we?
No, this is way too big. We don't have as much beautiful property as Rochelle does. So we're going to be a smaller scale, and then when we need something this big, we'll come down and visit them.
Okay. Well, do you have a snorkel in case it is 20 foot deep?
I don't, but I'm a good swimmer.
Okay, we'll try it out.
All right.
Yeah, we're going to go with 1025Rs on this project, and so I don't think we can do anything this big in just a day or two, but I mean, that seems fairly consistent.
It does.
Carrie.
It is. And so I think I'm maybe 4 or 5 inches right now.
I think we're going to have a laser for this.
We might. Let's just see.
This would be a lot of truckloads of water.
Yeah, too much money for me.
Okay, we're going home. We'll see you, Carrie.
Perfect. I'll see you guys later.
It seems kind of boring if the horse is just going to run in, run out. Do we do anything more advanced than that?
Yeah, so we have portable jumps. So you can bring standards and poles and then set jumps in. So the next level is to jump a jump in, and that might be a little off the bank, or it might actually be in the water.
So they land in the actual water.
They land in the water, or they'll be in the middle of the water. So if you watch Kentucky Rolex, they'll jump up over the jump in the water. Well, when we're not in a situation where we're constantly having competitions, we'll move portable jumps into those water banks.
So this is all about being comfortable with water, seeing if the horse can actually be confident in the rider to be able to jump into water, because they can't see the bottom.
They cannot see the bottom, so it's 100% trust in us as a rider.
So really you're training both. You're training the horse, but you're also training the rider to be able to communicate with the horse.
Exactly, 100%.
I know nothing about horses, but hey, I'm learning.
It's a lot of fun.
Now the one thing I have working to my advantage is this is sandy soil. It's not hard clay soil. It is pretty much sand, so a 1025R looks like it's a superstar compared to the pushing a heavier soil. Even so, we really should be using some kind of a dozer for this. But that's okay. Johnny and me have tackled big jobs before. Don't let my big talk fool you. At this point, I have essentially zero confidence that we're going to be able to achieve this goal. I just started pushing these piles into the hole for therapy, basically, to maybe convince myself that we'd be able to get something done. I think I had seen a photo of this hole, but I was fooled just like a lot of times you are when you watch these videos. I was just fooled at how deep it was. I did not realize it was so deep and so large. That little bit of water you see there in the bottom has got to be at least 7 feet below the surface. Now, it's not the first time we've had a large project here at Carpe Diem. This is what it looked like last fall when they wanted us to level this big area out here for an outdoor horse arena. At that point, neither of those nice buildings were here, and it was all just a big field. So clearly, Carpe Diem has tackled a lot of large projects in a short amount of time. We started by tilling the entire area that was going to be the arena, and then we began to drag with pull-type drags, attempting to get it more level. Once we got the laser out, we saw that there was at least a 2-foot elevation change from south to north. Well, moving that much dirt, even with Johnny 5 and an 8-foot blade, is just more than we could do in a couple of days. We got probably half of that done, but yeah, there's still at least a foot to be moved. Maybe 21st Century can loan us an 8RX next time with a big dirt pan, and then we can move a lot of dirt. Take a look at that hump out there with the flat top. That's where I shot the laser to see where the final grade would need to be. That's not quite true, as every time we take an inch off of the other side, we would also take an inch off of that hump. So the final grade would meet in the middle. But enough on that. Here's what it looks like now. Those are the 2 new buildings. You can see where we worked on the outdoor arena, and you can see the Grand Canyon there in the lower right corner. We also have some fairly large piles of dirt around the new buildings. Some area that was excavated to get the drainage right around the buildings themselves. Our current plan is to use this pile of dirt to fill in the canyon over there. Now, while I'm sure Carrie wouldn't consider herself a tractor expert, she's obviously got some tractor experience. She's doing a great job here with the 3046R, and in a few minutes I think we'll figure out where she got her training. Okay, so we're letting the 3046R help us fill this big hole. It's more than we can handle in a couple hours, let's put it that way. Meanwhile, here comes Neil from 21st Century bebopping in on another 1025R. Neil is the face or personality of a lot of the new 21st Century short videos or reels where they're doing some basic training and just basic education on these small tractors. If you live in or around the 21st Century Equipment area, check them out on YouTube, 21st Century Equipment. So why did they dig this big hole in the ground anyway? My understanding is that it turned out to be quite a cost savings for them in that they were able to use some of this subsoil or some of this sand out of the hole for their new indoor arena. So those piles that I was first pushing in were the topsoil. They moved those off, and then they dug out some of the lower level sand here and trucked it all the way up there to that new building and spread it to become the floor of the horse arena. My understanding is that they did that with a skid steer loader. I have no idea how long it took, but it had to have taken a while. I want to talk a little bit about the technique that Neil and I are using here. We're trying to move as much soil as we can with each pass. So rather than picking up our bucket, we're using it more like a dozer. Now, usually I'm not a fan of the idea of pulling down the pile before you try to get a bucket full. I see a lot of folks do that when all they're trying to do is fill their bucket, and I think it's a waste of time at best and sometimes maybe even detrimental. However, in this case, I'm trying to scatter it a little bit so that then I can get behind it and push like a bulldozer and hopefully push more than what I could lift. The idea is to have maybe a bucket and a half or maybe 2 buckets full that I can push down the hill here. Of course, this technique only works when you're working with a pile close to the destination. Carrie is hauling dirt from the larger piles all the way over at those buildings, so she has no choice but to pick up a bucket full and drop it right here. One of the fascinating aspects that we observed was that the 1025R was almost as effective as the 3046R for this particular situation. By effective, I mean that it could move almost as much soil. However, from a ride and comfort standpoint, there's no comparison. The 1025R's small tires and short wheelbase exaggerate every divot and every bump that you encounter. Neil and I were both, feeling a bit beat up when we got done. At this point, Neil and I have most of that near pile pushed in, and we still haven't gotten even close to the bottom of the canyon. How can we possibly get this thing filled in a couple of days, let alone get the rest of the pond work done? But I was energized to see that Carrie was persistent, sort of like I am. She was willing to keep working at it. Neil was willing to keep working at it, and, you know my persistence. You've seen that throughout the years, so let's don't give up yet. Another of our concerns was compaction. Are we going to be able to pack this soil down such that it won't settle too much? And as we worked with it, we noticed that when we first drove out on it, we could hardly drive out there at all. But the more we would drive over it and work it, that it began to get more and more solid. So I think we'll have something that should work well, but we're still not sure at this point.
We got word down at the project site that one of the horses had given birth. This mare had given birth to a filly, a female foal. It was amazing to me that the filly was already up and walking around. Carrie and some of the others from the stables here moved the mare and the baby to a stall they already had prepared for it.
Well, as you can see, our pile is almost gone, and our hole is still here. So we've got a lot more dirt to move, and that's why we asked to use their 3 Series to help haul some dirt from over there. It's left over from their building foundation. I believe that the reason for this hole is that they used a lot of this dirt for the pad or the foundation of the building up there. Yeah, not really the foundation, but actually for the horse arena itself. Look how good of a job Carrie's doing getting that bucket full. Perfect. This is one of my better bulldozer type pushes. You can see I've got a whole bunch of sand there in front of the bucket. Look how far we are from the bottom. We're still just reaching in there from one end. I think we're going to need some more help. Oh, look up there in the top left corner of your screen. Another Johnny from, well, out of nowhere. And hey, he's bringing us a bucket full of dirt. Oh, am I glad to see him. It turns out this is Carrie's dad, Glenn. Glenn's retired, and he has a tractor, and like most of us, he's always looking around and sniffing around trying to find a place where he can play in the dirt. Well, he's found it here, and we're thrilled to have him on site.
The new tractor on the scene is a 4310, older tractor.
4310 was made from 2002 to 2004. It's about 31 engine horsepower, 27 PTO. Comparable in capability to, say, a 3033R today. It was kind of a hybrid machine between a pure Yanmar tractor of the earlier generations and the John Deere design, starting with the 3320. I believe it's mainly a Yanmar design, but it was assembled in the, at that time, new Augusta, Georgia facility. Glenn had his tractor here to help dig post holes as they're putting in a lot of fence on the property. But he quickly found out today that the post hole digger was, well, not exactly the rear ballast that he needed. In fact, this experience motivated him to build quite a nice rear ballast box. Check out these photos he sent later. So I think now we can understand why Carrie is so good on a tractor. She had a good teacher. That MK Martin tool really did seem to help smooth it out a little bit, and as I mentioned earlier, those 1025Rs needed all the help they could get. The bigger tires and longer wheelbase on these larger tractors really improved the ride quality. It's pretty tough on the 1025Rs though.
Late in the day, Tim realized he wanted to set up the laser, so I hopped on the 1025R to help move more soil. I grabbed the action camera to get some footage, but it's a little hard to video and drive a tractor at the same time.
We've been hauling dirt to this hole for, well, what seems like forever. So I decided it might be good for us to begin to evaluate the final water level that we desired and the elevation of this base soil that we would need to achieve that water level, just so we'd really understand how much more dirt we had to move. You'll notice a flat spot around this stake with the blue top at the lower left. That's Carrie's preliminary estimate of where a good water level would be. We plan to put a liner down and then cover that with some special sand. The area that I'm working with the laser stick is roughly at the grade where the liner would start. None of us thought that this would be final, but we had to start somewhere and begin to visualize what our final goal is going to look like. There's some concern that we'll run out of dirt from these piles up here by the building, so in practicality this may limit the final water level. We also have a time constraint. We're only here for 2 days, and we'd really like to get the basics of this water feature done during that time. So one way to cheat a little bit is to lower that final water height. In any case, until we begin to visualize what that's going to look like, none of these decisions can happen. This angle gives a great view of our progress so far. You can see that desired water level there under that stake, and then you can see all my footprints here, which is roughly where the base needs to be. Between there and the 3046R, you can see that we have at least a couple feet to fill in, so there's lots more to do. On the other hand, it's measurable at this point. We've stretched day one too far already. It'll be dark soon, and actually there's a rain coming, believe it or not. Will we be able to get this project done? I'm still not sure at this point, even if we fudge the definition of done. That's all for this episode. To be continued. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on Tractor Time with Tim. Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, stand firm. Let nothing move you. Always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord, because you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain.